Hello and welcome to episode 4 of Pods by Tam. Pods by Tam is designed to enhance your life, not by bringing you groundbreaking information that you haven't heard before, but by encouraging you to continually grow and allow transformation in your life. How incredible that the Bible says, I have begun a good work in you, and I will continue it until completion at the day of Jesus Christ. The Bible talks about ongoing transformation. It also says, do not conform to the ways of the world that are constantly being presented to you, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind. How does that happen? It happens when you embrace constant learning. Life is a teacher. It is constantly giving you challenges, discomfort, opportunities in order to lean in and to grow. But you cannot fully embrace that unless you choose to be a lifelong learner. So I want to encourage you to lean into today's conversation because there is something in here that is going to edify you and me. Today we're going to be talking about social wellness. It's an incredible subject that encourages us to get uncomfortable in community. Because who knows, isolation is tempting. Anybody else just want to go shut themselves out sometimes and just go, the world out there is just complete chaos. People have gone wilder than ever, and I just don't have capacity for this. Why? We gain capacity by finding ourselves in those spaces. We gain capacity to love in community when we spend time in the discomfort of community. Every single one of you are part of a network of people. Whether it be your family, your friendships, the community you've chosen, your workplace, you are part of a network of people, and through strategy and intentionality, you can add more value than ever. So the first thing to get straight is that when we're dealing with people, there isn't a hierarchy of people. And obviously, we put aside authority that is put in place that we respect and submit to, right? We're not talking about that today. We're talking about general community, yes? So you have the opportunity to see yourself as above someone or below someone. So when you see yourself as above someone, and maybe you're doing this without being intentional about it, but you find yourself doing this. When you see yourself above someone, you speak down to them. You constantly give them advice. You constantly feed them information because somehow you believe and have decided that you're better than them. Okay? When you see someone else above you, you're constantly receiving from them. So you constantly submitted to them. Sometimes it involves comparison. So you're constantly believing that they are better than you. But when you walk in your truth, you see others as equal, and you're able to break down those power struggles and add value everywhere you go. Let's break this down into an example of having coffee with someone, a little coffee catch up. So if you've decided that you are living your best life and you've got it going on, and this person is a bit of a hot mess, which basically is all of us from time to time, sometimes all of the time, you decide that you are going to impart your wisdom on them. You speak down to them, and at the end of the conversation, they leave not feeling impacted. They leave feeling belittled. They leave feeling uninspired. They leave feeling that they don't have it going on. When you've taken on the stance of a victim mentality, you go to that same coffee catch up and you're just there to receive. You're there to just lay your problems on that person and receive as much as you can, and receive their information, their wisdom, their advice. And yes, maybe you're going to run with it, but often not, because you've taken the stance of a victim mentality. So you've identified in your brokenness. Sometimes this is the basic foundation for relationships and communication. I want to encourage you, relationships is not about seeing yourself as better than or less than. That is how comparison will wipe you out of the ability to build healthy community. Relationship is meeting at that table with anyone and believing I have something to sow, they have something to sow, which means I have something to receive at this table. I love a catch up where I speak a little bit about me, you speak a little bit about you. I encourage you, you encourage me. We both leave feeling elevated. We both leave feeling better. That coffee catch up is an analogy for relationships. Every relationship you have, whether it's with your family, whether it's with your partner, whether it's your friendship, I believe you have something to give always. Let's just break it down to the basic of the ability to speak life. Do you know, because your tongue is able to encourage, you have something to offer that person because you can speak life into their situation. So if you thought maybe I don't have something to give, I'm telling you now, for as long as your tongue works, you have something to give. And I have something that I need to receive from this conversation and this relationship. They have value to add. They are bringing something to this table. They are adding love and value to my life. So look at your relationships and go, what if I were to try and maintain a balance of sowing and receiving, and believing? At Rise, we've adopted this quote that says, we rise by lifting others. It means everybody grows and everybody gets better together. But you have to believe that you need to be transformed, which means you're constantly learning from others. But you also have value to add, which means you're constantly sowing into others. But do not be tempted by the desire for isolation, the desire for the easy way out, shutting people out, because people are hard. And I think as you get older, it sometimes gets harder. People get more complicated. Sometimes they're living with walls built around them. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Sometimes they're living in their trust issues. Sometimes they're living in their insecurity. And that is all regurgitated at a table when you're in relationship. Yes, but you need to be in it for it all, celebrating their growth and believing that you are learning more about you, and your capacity for others is growing when you choose to get into relationships that are uncomfortable. I also see people surrounding themselves with people that look and speak and act like them. Make sure that your circles are diverse, because that's how you become open-minded. That's how you are constantly learning and growing and seeing things through different lenses and different perspectives and able to love. Your capacity to love grows when you extend your table to people who live differently to you. Okay, so let's start by sharing this quote. And it's a quote that I read that really for me was so profound, and I think it's going to impact you. But it says, burnout is pretending that you're not human for too long. And I want us to all just take off that mantle right now, take it off, that jacket of pretense, where we, before we leave the house, we put it on and we like, this is what I am to others. This is what I believe adds value. This is what I believe I can pretend to be, maintain for a short period of time, go home and take it off and give my ugly to the people at home. We're pretending to be something for too long. Instagram has promoted this. Beautyface has promoted this. Social media has promoted this. Be whatever you want to be. Project your best life to others, as opposed to growing into everything that you want to be. But people are tired of pretending. I was there just a few years ago. I remember someone saying to me, "You're such a nice person." And I remember being so taken aback by the compliment, and I should have received it as a compliment, except I had been pretending. I had been living in pretense. Instead of going through the difficulty of growing into the kind person that I wanted to be, I had chosen to pretend that I was lovely, that I was kind, to always put a smile on my face, to be welcoming and loving, instead of actually looking at the posture of my heart and going, let me get this right. Let me get this right. And you know the scripture that says, man looks at outward appearance, but God looks at the heart. So I remember he really set me free and going, like, what's good in pretending to everyone else that you're this? And this was unintentional pretense. This was just going, a nice person brings more value to the world, so let me bring value by being a nice person when I'm outside and in the company of others, rather than becoming a nice person. And I'm so grateful that God took me on a delayering process to go, why is it that the way people are seeing me is different to the way that I see myself? So I want to encourage you to actually go on the deep journey of becoming everything that you desire to be, rather than pretending to be everything that you desire to be, because you will not be able to maintain it. And then through those cracks will show your insecurity, your impatience, your inadequacies, your inferior beliefs about yourself. They'll seep through the cracks, and you'll have suppressed it for so long that it's going to be more difficult to unpack than if you're willing to just put it all out on the table now and deal with it deep and deal with it right. Okay, let's start with the definition of social wellness. Social wellness is 3 things we're going to talk about today. Developing a sense of connection, a sense of belonging, finding a place to belong, and developing a well-developed support system. Okay, so we're all part of a network of people. We have family, we have friends, we have community, we have colleagues, all spaces we show up in. We have an opportunity to sow, and we have an opportunity to receive. Yes, and that is how we are constantly edified by others. We are not better than, and we are not less than. We are equals. Besides authority that is over you, by position that you have submitted to, other than that, we are all equal. We all have the opportunity to love on others and receive from others. And I think it's so tempting through comparison to believe you're better than or less than, and allow it to either elevate you or break you down. But I want you to know you have value to add in every single space. Diversify your spaces in culture, diversify your spaces in race, diversify your spaces more than ever in age. I see people choosing to surround themselves with people from the same generation, but there is such a wealth of wisdom in generations before you that I want to encourage you, change your circles, grow, learn, and get uncomfortable. So some of the things that we need to know when we're developing a sense of connection and a space of belonging is that yes, you need boundaries to protect yourself, but not walls. Walls is when you build something up and you just give people a tiny taste of who you are because of years of trauma, of mistrust, of difficult relationships, of your trust having been broken, of people hurting you, of rejection. Because of that, we build up walls. I remember sitting in front of my boss one day years ago. This was 2008. I was a baby in the workplace. And my boss said to me, "Oh my goodness, you are like living in Alcatraz." And I didn't know what Alcatraz was at the time. And he said, Alcatraz is the maximum security prison. Well, the worst thing about this was I believe that was the greatest compliment. I was living in Alcatraz. I was like, absolutely. Nobody can hurt me. Nobody can hurt me. I wouldn't even let you close enough to hurt me. And that was from teenage friendships of mistrust, of not looking after each other, of not respecting each other in love, and going, you know what? It wasn't even that. It was identifying this world is a dark space. People can be really, really hurtful. And my best, and I'm a very, very sensitive and soft person, and my best way of surviving in this world would be in a maximum security prison. And I'm so grateful that he spoke that over me, and that God gave me the wisdom to know that you are not going to live fully in that prison, because you're not your protector. I am your protector. So you can be true, and you can be authentic, and you can be safe in the shadow of my wing of protection. So I want to encourage you, if you've been protecting yourself for just way too long, you can, and you can't just chip away those walls. You can't just chip away those walls, because what you left exposed. You have to get into the discomfort of community to grow, see the best in people, believe the best in people, and learn to create boundaries, not walls. Boundaries is identifying toxic relationships, identifying, and I created a simple strategy for this, and that was when I'm in conversation with someone or in the same room as someone, I identify the way that they make me feel, and then I decide whether I want to be in their conversation more often or less often. in order to create boundaries and protect myself from people who actually do not honor community by layering you with love and rather project their own insecurities, project their own hurt. And there's a way to guard yourself and sow love into those rooms, but you have to create boundaries so that in safe spaces you can break down your walls. Okay, so you have the ability to build community, but also to be in community. And this is creating spaces for people to grow and people to thrive without believing that you are above those people. And this is very, very unique to my story, but I know if I share it, it will impact your story. So I've been building community for years, creating places for people to come, to make connections, to initiate friendships. And somehow, because of being the leader in that space, people looked up to me as though I was above that space. Meanwhile, I hadn't created it because of something that I had created it because of something that I wanted. So when I walked into the room, I didn't feel above anyone. I felt like equally desperate for healthy community. And that's when you constantly need to humble yourself as a servant to others. Leadership is from a space of humility. So, and this is where I want to encourage you to be deliberate in breaking down power struggles. Power struggles exist in every single relationship, and there is a healthy order for every relationship. Look at your parents. I've seen people become parents to their parents. Your parents are your parents. They are above you. That is the godly order of where your parents are. They need to be honored. They need to be respected. They need to be lifted up into their role as your parents. But I've instead seeing people, children, taking their parents out of that role of parenting because they believe they can do it better. Who knows? 25-year-old Tam definitely thought she knew better than her parents, but that godly order has been restored. In relationships, in marriage, you are to submit to your husband, right? He is the godly authority. Instead, you can fight this power struggle to constantly try and overrule your husband, but you will never live in the godly order of him being the head of the home, being the protector. So there is a godly authority and an order that you need to submit to, but outside of that, there should not be a hierarchy. Outside of that, we just sow and receive and sow and receive in love. So part of building community is deliberately breaking down power struggles. The need to dominate, the need to control, the need to be more. Break it down and just believe when everybody thrives, communities are able to do radical things, and your desire should be to maintain and create that godly order and unity. Okay, building relationships and finding a place of belonging comes easy when you genuinely care. Care is the key ingredient. Caring for others, because you cannot fake it. You cannot fake it when you're in relationship with someone and you don't care deeply about their struggles, about their growth, about their health, about their healing. But community happens so organically when you look to others and you care. I'm so encouraged by this quote that says, "Be kind because you never know what someone is going through." Do you know what that does? That dissolves the constant presentation of offense. You are constantly presented with the opportunity to take offense by what others do, by what others say. But when you live through this narrative of you don't know where that's coming from and you don't know what they're going through, you go, offense is not something that I will take on, because offense kills you from the inside. And the Bible actually says in the latter days, many will be offended. And if you look at how the world is functioning at the moment, people are becoming more offended than ever. Offense is a choice. Every time someone says something or does something you don't like, you have the opportunity to get offended or cover them with love. Go, I don't know where that came from. I didn't like how it made me feel, but I choose to not accept offense, and I will continue to build relationship. So break down those walls, bring down those trust issues. I remember asking in a group of women, Anybody got trust issues? Anybody come out of your teen years, your young adult years, your introduction to the workplace, your discomfort of saying yes to community without developing some trust issues? Trust issues is a real thing. It's something you don't have to live behind. It's something you can get set free from. Knowing that we all disappoint at some point. We all let people down, but we have the opportunity to create strategy and be more deliberate in loving more than hurting. Okay, just a few points to finish up on. Relationships require 3 things: communication, trust, and conflict management. Communication is actually being authentic and vulnerable in the way that you share and connect with others, and being deliberate. Because otherwise, when you meet with someone, the conversation so easily veers towards gossip, towards meaningless conversation, towards superficial jokes, because depth is uncomfortable. So you actually have to go, let me give a little bit of me so I can, and then require a little bit of you. So asking hearty questions. You won't believe how people respond to level 3 questions. And level 3 means deep questions, not having superficial conversations. Second thing you need is trust. Trust is something that you give freely. Trust cannot be earned. It cannot be earned, because the reality is you have to give people the opportunity to be trusted in order for them to take it on and actually conduct themselves in a beautiful manner. Sometimes we're so waiting so long, and I've done this time and time again, for someone to prove themselves, but we didn't actually create the expectation for trust by trusting them from the get-go before that trust is broken. And then there's a way to heal and forgive when that trust is broken. So these are things you hold up when you want to build relationship, when you want to build friendship. You hold it up. You don't expect it to happen by itself. You hold it up. You promote communication. You give trust. And the last thing is conflict. Conflict is something that needs to be addressed on a daily basis, especially when you're building new relationships in the beginning. When you have those little feelings of like, I didn't like the way you did this, or I didn't like the way you said this, you're able to have those conversations in love, because love always wins. This is to encourage you, do not have superficial relationships. Build deep, and you build deep with communication, with trust, and with conflict management. I want to remind you of one thing before we wrap up for today, and I hope I've encouraged each of you to break down some walls, let go of your trust issues, embrace community, but not just as a chore, but that you're actually feeling excited about it. The last thing I'm leaving you with today is, in every conversation and every relationship, you have the opportunity to love or judge, but you cannot do both. Love covers. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love doesn't keep record of wrong. Love doesn't get angry easily. Love is something that you can maintain, and you will be able to effortlessly build relationship, because we are wired for community. But if you judge is me deciding whether you are worthy of more time with a friendship, whether you are, and putting you into a box, putting you into a category, judging you on your every action, on your every conversation, on your every comment. There is no room for love. You can judge or love, but you cannot do both. And we are not entitled to judge. We are not the ultimate judge. So I want to encourage every single one of you, if you want to build community, choose love. Love always wins. Thank you so much for choosing to lean in to episode 4 of Pods by Tam, where we get uncomfortable and we choose to grow together by enhancing our wellness. I look forward to being with you same time, same place next week.